come to the conclusion that dharma can only be known. How? Mahajano yena gata sapantha. That is dharma. Dharma is the path that is walked by the great souls who have come before us. Mahajano yena gata sapantha. And at this point, what are you going to say? What's the skeptic going to say? So, well, there's many Mahajans, right? And they're all walking different paths. But here's the thing, right? It sounds like a good argument on the surface, but here's the difference when we take Mahajano yena gata sapantha. Is that the Mahajana is the only person in whose life you can see the process and the effects of the process with your own eyes. You don't have to depend on what this philosopher says or that logician says. You don't have to depend on what someone said, someone did 1,000 years ago. With the Mahajan, you can see it with your own eyes. What is the path and what are the effects of that path? The philosophers, you see, they tell you what the path is. But you don't see the effects of the path because it's all theoretical. They're not actually practicing. You don't see it in their life. And in some cases you read about the path in some book or something like that, but then you don't have that person in front of you to verify whether this is happening or not. With the Mahajans, you have this rare combination of instruction and application that come together at the same time. Jnana and Vijnana. Krishna says, Jnana Vijnana Sahitam. I'm going to tell you this with Jnana and Vijnana. The knowledge and the application of the knowledge. And that pair is what comes together in the Mahajan. It's the only place in spiritual life where you see both coming together. And this is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Bhagavata makes it so clear that with the book Bhagavata, we need what? The person Bhagavata. Srila Prabhupada spends his whole introduction of Srimad Bhagavatam telling us the life story of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And you think, well, why? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not discussed in Srimad Bhagavatam. But that's the thing. Bhagavatam, book Bhagavata is there. But unless you see the person Bhagavata and the application of that, how do you know that the process actually works? There are so many different philosophies in this world. So many different philosophies. And so many different paths. And anyone who hears them and studies them, and we've all heard about these different paths and options, we naturally ask ourselves the question, well, how do I know? How do I know what the right path is? How do I know which way I'm supposed to go? Why today I should not follow this guru or that teacher or this sanstha or this branch? You've asked this question before in your own life, right? I mean, unless we're of the rare type that we come with fixed shraddha right from birth. We all have to ask this question, which path do we follow? Which way do we go? And for myself, I can say, because my area of work is in academia, in the humanities, it's my job to study every religion and every philosophy that's out there. Not just to study it, but to teach it to my students in courses on world religions and different kinds of philosophy. And I have to present all the different philosophies, Shankaracharya's philosophy and Shaivite ideas and Vaishnava ideas and all of that. And so for me, it's been a real question over the years. Is, okay, I grew up in this tradition, right? I grew up as a devotee, but how do I know? Why should I continue with that? My parents took to this process later on in life, not in childhood. So maybe I should go find another process in my youth. And when I get older, I should go follow some other path. how do you know which process is the best? If I were to ask you that question, how do you know which process to follow? Which process is the best? How would you answer that question?
By result.
By result, good. What else?
By those who followed and...
By those who followed and came before, yes.
The knowledge comes from the disciplic succession.
Whether it comes from disciplic succession or not, yes.
Ultimately experience. You experience it for yourself.
Ultimately experience. You experience it for yourself. Based on the scriptures. Yes. So all of these are correct answers. And here's why it becomes such a challenge. Because in every tradition you have those who claim to be telling us the truth, right? And in many traditions that are, many paths that are totally misleading us, there's also a parampara that comes in that path. They have their misled gurus, and that misled guru had his misled guru, and like this, it goes on, you know. I mean, you can pass down useless information also in parampara. It happens in the academic world all the time, I can tell you. One guy will come up with some crazy theory, and he'll teach it to his student, and that guy will follow the same useless theory for the next generation. So, it's a real challenge, right? And for myself, in looking at these different philosophies, the conclusion I came to was that the first question we have to ask ourselves is, what is the goal? What goal am I trying to achieve? Not what is the goal, what is my goal? What am I after? Because frankly, if you're looking for quick material success, then the best way to get that material success might be to go to Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma. Because for quick results, this is, we see, it's time tested through history. Hiranyakashipu went there, Ravana went there, they all wanted quick results and they got them. And Krishna, and even in Bhagavad Gita, it promises us that. Men who go to the demigods get quick results. So if that is our goal, to win the lottery, right, then maybe going to Lord Narayana is not the best idea for that reason. On the other hand, if we want great knowledge and we want to ultimately destroy any kind of variety in this world and become completely peaceful by destroying ourselves even, by becoming one with the world, then Mayavad philosophy is an excellent way to go about that. Right? You can accomplish that goal. And I know it sounds funny, but for a lot of people that is their goal. The question we have to ask ourselves is, what is the goal? What is my goal? And once we have that figured out, do I want to live in a world that is impersonal, without relationship, free of variety and any kind of name and form? If that is that where I want to spend eternity? Or do I want to go to a place where there's full variety and a lot of activity and relationship and so many things like that? Name and form and excitement? Is that the eternal life I want to live? Once we figured out that question, what is my goal? What kind of world do I want to live in forever? Then we can say, okay, now show me someone who has achieved that goal. Show me what a process that promises that goal. Okay? You find a process that promises that goal, and then you verify its promise. How do you verify its promise? You see those who have gone before you and the success rate that they have had. Just like when you're choosing a college. Right? How do you choose a university to study at? Well, you look at its success rates, right? How many people after graduation get a job? What famous alumni does this college have? Are all the people now just wandering around the street, or they've got some good placements, right? That's how you tell. Is this college successful or not? But the first thing you have to do is ask about the goal. If I want to become a doctor, then what's the best school in Georgia for that? What's the best school for medical school here?
Emory.
Huh?
Emory.
Emory. Okay. So then I should go to Emory if I want to become a doctor. But if I want to become an engineer, then what school should I go to? Georgia Tech, right? So is Georgia Tech better or is Emory better? Well, it depends on your goal, right? I mean, you cannot answer that question fairly. You can have an opinion, you can say Emory is the best school ever. But honestly speaking, you cannot answer that question unless you know what your goal is. If you want to become an engineer, go to Georgia Tech. But if you want to become a doctor, go to Emory. Now you know the goal, you can judge the school. And then you see, well, what is the success rate of people who've gone to medical school at Emory? What are their placements? Oh, they're very good. Okay, that's verified. You've specified your goal. You've seen whether it works with others who have gone before you. And then the final thing, you try it out yourself. You verify it using your own experience. And what they told you should happen at each step, it should happen. And if each step they say, okay, at this point you should be developing some attraction to doing devotional service. At this point you should be feeling a sense of peace in your life. Okay, yeah, it's starting to happen. Okay, so far so good. Next step, you should be feeling this should be happening. Okay. At this stage, all your anarthas should be coming out. Oh, it's happening. Right? So that we verify those stages, and at each step we see, yes, it's happening. Yes, it's happening. Yes, it's happening. And then we know, okay, this process is likely to lead me to my desired goal. So this is what it means, Mahajano Yenikatasa Pantha, right? That we have the book Bhagavata and we have the person Bhagavata. And in that way we have the road map and we have the people who have walked on that map before us, using that map. And then we try it out ourselves and see what the result is from that process. And if we get that result, then yes, Dharmasya Tattvam Netang Gahayam Mahajano Yenagata Sapanta. I have found the path. I have found the path. So it's a very, like Prabhupada used to say, it's a very scientific process, Krishna consciousness. Right? It's not a process that we're just saying, oh, you take it by faith. And if you don't accept it by faith, then you're going to go to hell. Maybe you'll go to hell, but we have a scientific process of proving that you'll go to hell. Right? It means it's the Krishna consciousness is a science. We've got a step-by-step process that you can try, you can verify, you can see what the results are of that. And the Srimad Bhagavatam is the key linchpin in that process, right? Because if you don't have the map, then frankly you can't tell whether anyone is walking the right path or not. Even if you're following someone you really trust. You just cannot know. You need to have the map. The scripture is so important for that purpose. It's not sufficient on its own, but it's crucial for that purpose. That we have the directions when we start off. This is where I'm going. And this is what I need to do. And Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam provides that. This is why Nectar of Devotion, Rupa Goswami says, there are 5 most potent aspects of devotional service. Deity, devotee, Nam, Dham, and Bhagavatam. 5 things. It's easy to remember like this. If you remember, deity, devotee, Nam, Dham, Bhagavatam. Worship of the deity, service to the devotees, chanting of Krishna's holy names, residing in a holy place, and study of Srimad Bhagavatam. The definition of these most potent, what makes them most potent? These 5 things. Do you know what makes them most potent? Why are they considered most potent? What quality do they have? Even a little exposure to any one of the 5 will give you the full success. So even a little bit of exposure, just like Narottam Das Thakur, he sings in his song, Vaishnave Vignapti. He says, Gangara Parasha Koile Paschate Pavan. Darshane pavitra koro eto maragon. He's praying to the Vaishnava. He's saying, the Ganga, it cleanses us. Paschate pavan, with a lot of bathing. You have to bathe in Ganga every morning for many years, and then she will cleanse you of all your sins. People go to the Ganga every day. They bathe every morning in order to be cleansed of our sins. But darshane pavitra koro etumargon. The devotee's quality is such, is just by a moment's association with the devotee. Lava matra sadhu sangi, sarva siddhi hoy. You get the full perfection. So that's what it means. It means that bathing in the Ganga is part of devotional service, but it's not listed in one of the 5 most potent aspects of devotional service. Why? Because to get into that list, the qualification it has to have is that even a little bit of exposure to even one of the 5 will lead you to the greatest success. So the Srimad Bhagavatam is one of the most 5 potent aspects of devotional service. It means that even a little bit of exposure to Srimad Bhagavatam has the capacity to lead us to the highest success, to the full success in Krishna consciousness. That's all. You don't even need anything else, practically speaking. Just a little exposure to study of Srimad Bhagavatam. Parikshit Maharaj is the best and first example. That's all he did for 7 days. In 7 days he went back to Godhead. That's all the time it takes, is 7 days. But then we have to listen with his focus and his determination. So this is why I was mentioning yesterday, right, that Prabhupada said that if someone reads even a line from my books, their lives will become perfect. Is because this is what Rupa Goswami is saying. Right? The line from his books is a line from Srimad Bhagavatam, a line from Bhagavad Gita. And these scriptures are such. Prabhupada is not saying that out of arrogance as an author. Every author thinks his books are great. But he's not saying it with the arrogance of an author. He's saying it based on scripture. That this is a touchstone. It's the most powerful medicine. Even a slight exposure to radioactive elements, right? It can completely destroy anything. Right? To completely destroy any human being. A little bit of exposure, you don't need much. It's one of the most potent forms of energy in this world, right? Bhagavatam, it's like that. It's radioactive, it's Krishna active. A little exposure to him and your material life is transformed. Right? Everything becomes blissful as a result. So, the question is, well, how? How do we expose ourselves to Srimad Bhagavatam? How do we find this radioactive isotope and go find it and expose ourselves to it? I think from what I heard yesterday, I think many of us here, most of us here, maybe have Srimad Bhagavatam in our home already. If you don't, then that's the first thing, is that you get a copy of Srimad Bhagavatam. Because if it's in the home, it's very, very powerful. And just by its mere presence, it will one day attract someone in your home to pick it up and begin reading. That's a guarantee with any of Prabhupada's books. That no matter how determined you are not to open the book, it's a magnet, right? And eventually, you'll wake up in the middle of the night one day and go, no, okay, I'll read it. And you'll end up reading it. If not you, someone else in your life. And they will make you a devotee. They'll read it, they'll become a devotee, and they'll make you a devotee. So these are very powerful books. Okay? So first, having them in the house, that's the first step. You need access to it. Then the next step is, okay, now we have to read. We have the book, we have to read. And that can be a challenge. The first challenge with studying Bhagavatam can be its size. Bhagavad Gita still looks manageable, but Bhagavatam looks, it's huge. 18,000 verses, 18 volumes, 12 cantos, so many purports, and it can feel, this is too much. But they say, every journey begins with the first step. Right? Every journey begins with the first step. No one begins a journey with the 10th step. It's always with the first step. So there's always a first step. And we read in Prabhupada's preface yesterday that the only thing he requests us is to begin from page 1, right? And to progress systematically through the contents of Bhagavatam. Now, with any kind of reading or any kind of subject, the fact is that if it is of value, it takes some time to develop a taste for it. Think about it. The only things that you have instant taste for in life are the things that have very little value, right? I mean, you never have to convince anyone to watch a cheap movie. There's people running around, there's action happening. You sit there and you're engrossed, right? You don't have to develop a taste for it. Everyone likes it. You watch a movie, it's fun. But how much value does it have? Does it affect your life? Does it change you? Does it, No. You dream about it that night and you think about it a couple more times and then you want to get it out of your head. Cheap novel, they sell copies in the millions. You can get Stephen King's novels and they're very, millions of copies he's selling. He's producing a novel every month. But if I asked you to read, Shakespeare's plays, if I have time, right? If I have time. Those who start reading it, they get addicted to it. Wow, this is the most amazing piece of literature on the planet. But it takes time, right? Anything of value takes time to develop a taste. Anything without value, we have a taste for it instantly. This is because of our conditioning in the material world. We're in a diseased state. Nectar of Instruction says this, right? We're in a state of jaundice, where that which is bitter appears sweet and that which is sweet appears bitter. So we take things that are otherwise tasteless for anyone with culture and we go, oh, this is nice. The food that you like instantly, is it going to be healthy for you? No. I mean, if it's made of white flour and it has a lot of sugar in it, then chances are, what was it? The Wonder Cakes, what do they call them? Twinkies, yeah. So they stopped producing them, a little while ago they stopped producing them. And there was such a riot amongst consumers that they had to bring it back into production. Right? They absolutely free of any nutritional value, 100% free. Any nutritional value. It's white flour, sugar, and tons of cheap oil. That's all it is. And it's empty calories, and yet you'll eat a bite and you'll love it instantly. But if I say, eat whole grain and have bajre ki roti or something like that, everyone says, well, I don't know, I have to think about it. And then we want to end it with something cheap and free of nutrition, just to finish off the meal. My point is, in every area of life, this is the same thing. This is our conditioning. In this material world, we're like flies. Our conditioning is like flies. And what are flies attracted to? Dirt, right? We're attracted to dirty stuff. We're not bees yet. We have to become bees. Will a bee buzz around a bunch of dog stool on the floor? No, bees don't go there. They go for the flowers. They drink the nectar. But flies will go there, right? And you try to convince a fly to go to a lotus flower, it's going to say, no, horrible. I'll take the stool. Right? So that's our condition. Just because we open the Bhagavatam and instantly we're not attracted to its pages is not a fault with the Bhagavatam. It's our own conditioning. We have to keep that in mind. Because in the last 2 sessions, we've hopefully already shown that the finest minds in the history of the world, the most gentlest and kindest souls in the history of the world, the greatest acharyas and thinkers have found Bhagavatam attractive. Atma ramascha munayo nirgrantaya purukrume. They have found the Bhagavatam attractive. So the fact that we don't find the Bhagavatam attractive initially, we have to change something about ourselves. Right? That's one thing. So, but the good thing about the Bhagavatam is it doesn't take a lot of time. If you just start reading it, you will discover that it doesn't take a whole lot of time to start appreciating its contents. But how do we take out that time to do it? And the best way to do it is together as a family. The reason for that is because we're all family people here anyway, right? We're all grihastas. And our heart is invested in our family, in our children, in our husband, in our wife. We have to spend time with them anyway, right? We want to spend time with them. So wherever our attachment is right now, why don't we put Srimad Bhagavatam in the middle of that attachment? So then we'll become attached to Bhagavatam also. Right? In other words, if this is what I'm already attracted to, if I can add Bhagavatam to that, then by hook or by crook I'll be attracted to Bhagavatam also, yes? Means we can make Bhagavatam the cornerstone of our family life by studying and reading Srimad Bhagavatam together. If it is at all possible, and usually it is, if not every day, at least start with once a week. Get together as a family and have everyone sit together, husband, wife, and children. And the children can begin quite early. As soon as they're old enough to sit and listen for even 15 minutes at a time, they can begin. And especially if they know how to read. They should be part of the process. You take a copy of Bhagavatam or multiple copies and you go in a circle and everyone reads one verse, one translation from the chapter. Just the translations, okay? Begin just by reading the translations if there's children in the group, because they won't have patience for the purports. Choose a chapter, read the translations together as a group, and try to cover a full chapter if you can. Maybe 1 hour it'll take you to read the translations. But here's the key. As you're reading it, don't read it like a ritual, because rituals are not interesting to anyone. They're not interesting to the kids, and even we as adults, we tolerate it because we know it's our duty, but we're also not interested. Bhagavatam reading should not become another ritual in our life. Rather, whenever you come to some nice verse, you stop and you discuss that verse with each other. Discussion means that you ask your children a question. You say, well, in the story of Dhruva Maharaj, why is Dhruva Maharaj not following the instructions of Narad Muni? Narad Muni is telling him, go home, back to your family. And Dhruva says, no, I'm going to stay here. Did he do the right thing by rejecting what Narad Muni says? And why was Narad Muni giving him the wrong instruction to go home rather than find Krishna? And you can discuss the question very nicely. Right? How did Dhruva react when he was hurt by his father? How should we react when we are hurt or insulted by someone? The Bhagavatam has, every story of Bhagavatam has such nice lessons for our day-to-day life. Parikshit Maharaj, you know, he put the snake on the neck of the sage. Did he do the right thing? Bhagavatam says no. Why did he do it? He was a pure devotee of the Lord from childhood. Why did he do it? And what should we do in that situation? How should we react when we make a mistake in some way? So many nice incidents, so many nice lessons to learn from. And of course, so much action also. With the battles between Krishna and the demons, with the great feats that these devotees do. So much action, so much story. But we stop and we discuss. Ask your children a question, let them ask questions. Discuss, try to apply in your own life, and keep it unstructured like that. Take whatever time is needed to enjoy and get into the study of Srimad Bhagavatam as a family. One thing we should not do is turn it into an exam, an oral exam. So what's happening here, what happened last year, remember what... we can have that habit as parents sometimes. We want to grill our children, and the test is how much information they can retain. But here, information retention is not the goal, right? It's absorption of that knowledge. Are we actually absorbing it? Are the children understanding it? And I know many of us here may be thinking, well, my kid is never going to sit through that. But you will be amazed how much children are attracted to Srimad Bhagavatam. You'll be amazed. And how deep their questions will become. I'm not saying this just based on my own experience. Of course I have my experience. Growing up, this is how my mother taught us. We would spend hours reading Bhagavatam together. We learned our English, and we learned our comprehension, and our reading and our writing all through Bhagavatam. But I'm not saying this just based on my own experience. We've seen with hundreds of children, parents are completely shocked, they're surprised. They say, we started reading Bhagavatam together, and it's like my child becomes a new person when we sit down to study Bhagavatam. He's not my kid anymore, it's different. Or I get back the old child I had when he was really sweet and he comes back all of a sudden. Or all of a sudden he's interested in Krishna again. Right? People will give these amazing experiences in their just by getting together as a family and studying Srimad Bhagavatam. Keep in mind that Krishna is all attractive and Bhagavatam is his body. If anything, children should be more attracted to Bhagavatam than we are, because they have less baggage from this life that they carry. The material desires have not yet had a time to manifest and to fructify. So they will be even more attractive. And the older your children get, the more it is important for them to study Bhagavatam, because there's a certain age at which children really, their intellectual ability develops, and they want to know why, and they want to know how. They're not ready to just accept it just like that. It happens quite early, actually. But the intelligence needs some food. You want to be a devotee because it means something to you, because you're convinced about it, not just because it's your family religion. And Bhagavatam provides, it satisfies that intellectual hunger, which is so important for the family, right? So sit together as a family, go in a circle, read verses, discuss the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam. And don't be worried if you don't know. The answer to a question, or if you've never read it before, that's okay. You're learning Srimad Bhagavatam, you're studying Srimad Bhagavatam with your children at the same time. And if you don't know the answer to a question, that's okay too. You just say, I don't know the answer to this question. Should we look in the purport? And naturally, this will lead you to studying the purports. We used to end up reading so many purports, not all of them, but so many purports here and there, because we had some question we couldn't answer. And 9 times out of 10, Prabhupada answers it in the purport. For this verse, or the next verse, or the previous verse. You'll find this happen again and again. You'll come up with a question, and you'll read the purport, oh, Prabhupada thought of that question. He has the answer here. And it will naturally attract the whole family to studying the purports as well. If you can do this even once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, even a little bit is going to have so many wonderful effects. It'll bring you closer together as a family, it'll help your children become devotees, and it will make you into devotees as well. It will make us into devotees. Your children won't be able to wait for another session of Srimad Bhagavatam study together, right? And this is the biggest gift that you can give to your children. Biggest gift you can give them as they grow up and one day leave home. If you can leave them with a love for Srimad Bhagavatam, you have given them the basis for lifelong good behavior and Krishna consciousness. Because after all, how long are we going to be there for our children, telling them do this, don't do this? Even if we are ready to be there, they may not want us to be there. Oh, do this, don't do this. But Bhagavatam will always be there, right? It will always be there as an eternal friend and guide. So, as early as 5 years old, our children can read Bhagavatam with us. And if they're younger than that, have them sit there and then you explain the story in your own words. Read a verse, explain it in your own words. But starting the age of 5 or 6, we have seen so many examples. Your children's reading abilities will become amazing. They'll become amazing. Because everyone's reading a verse, they will want to read a verse. Otherwise, they may not want to read. They may not like to read. But because the family is there, they will want to read a verse also. And they'll read it together with you. And their reading abilities will become very good. If you do the discussion, their critical thinking abilities, their reasoning abilities will become so sharp as you do the discussion. You can play devil's advocate. You can have debates. It's so much fun. It's really, really nice. So we can try that. We can try that. And then beyond this, if you have more time or you have more desire, then you can study even more systematically. I gave some techniques in answer to Mataji's question yesterday. I think yesterday you had asked the question about how we can study Bhagavatam. So I'd given some tips in terms of studying it in context and seeing the verses before and after. So that's very useful. Connecting the purports to the translation, to the verse itself. And saying, well, why is Prabhupada making these points in his purport to this translation? That's very useful. Connecting the translation to the verse itself, to the Sanskrit. You can do that using the word for word meanings. That is very useful. Creating, this is something even the children have fun doing. As you're reading, keep charts and diagrams. Bhagavatam gives all kinds of genealogies, right? So they can make a genealogical chart and keep filling it in. So we're talking about the Manus, right? So Swayambhuva Manu, and he had these children were his children. And his, so you have Devahuti and Akuti and Prasuti and Uttanapad and Priyavrata, right? So you make Devahuti, Akuti, Prasuti, Uttanapad, Priyavrata, right? And then Uttanapad, his son is Dhruva, right? So here's the Dhruva story. And then as you're reading, you keep a chart, you keep track of it. It's so much fun. Get a big sheet of paper and have them keep track of it. And pretty soon by the end of it, you have a map of the whole Bhagavatam, where everything is located. Note down, Canto 1 is here, Canto 2 is here. This story is, Bhagavatam, remember what we discussed yesterday, right? Very well organized. Structure is excellent. It's not difficult to keep a chart, a map like this. You can keep a chart of genealogies, whose children like that, or you can keep a chart of speakers. So highest level, Suta Goswami speaking to Shonaka Rishi. He's talking about Shukadev Goswami speaking to Maharaj Parikshit. He's talking about, and then under each speaker you have the stories and the chapters that are with that speaker. At some points in Bhagavatam, I think the most you get is like 7 layers in altogether. So the chart gets quite dense. And each one, then you've got another map of Bhagavatam based on not the family relationships, but based on the speakers and their connections. You can do the same things based on question and answers. This is more difficult, it's for older children. But you can do it based on question and answers. So, first canto Srimad Bhagavatam, what is the key question being asked? What is the answer? Which leads to, so question, answer, this leads to this question by Maharaj Parikshit, which leads to this story, which leads to this question, and it leads to this answer, right? And so you'll discover that a whole story of such and such avatar is actually an answer to this question. And again, you've got a map of the whole Bhagavatam based on what stories and what questions, how the dialogue progressed between and the inquiries that were made. So that's a very nice way of keeping track of your study. Another thing you can do is you can do a thematic study of some idea in Bhagavatam. So some concept, some idea, and you can go through Bhagavatam looking for that idea. So for example, one time I did a study of curses in Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay? So it was a fun topic and exciting as well. And I created this whole table and chart of the different kinds of curses, and I don't remember now exactly, but they're like, I decided there were like 4 different types of curses in Bhagavatam. There was the offensive curse, where the curse is actually attacking someone, right? Like you're trying to do something heavy towards someone. There's the defensive curse, where you're trying to protect yourself from someone. There's the predictive curse, where your curse doesn't really change anything, it just kind of predicts what's going to happen anyway. And then there's the curse which is actually a blessing in disguise, like Narada Muni curses Nal Kuber and Manigriv, and it was really a blessing. You'll get to see Krishna one day. So there were like different kinds of curses, and then I took all the different stories, the curse of the sages on Maharaj King Vena, the curse of Parvati for King Chitraketu, the curse of the boy Shringi. That was an offensive curse, right? Boy Shringi cursing Maharaj Parikshit, and then like that. So and then put it in different categories, and then try to understand, well, what kinds of curses are there, and why is Bhagavatam discussing these curses, and what is the goal behind the curse, and like that. So you can take a theme and do a little module on studying Bhagavatam using that theme across the different cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam. For some reason, if you're not able to sit together as a family to study Bhagavatam together, then you can add it to your routine just a little bit every day in the evenings. At one point in my home, when things were really, really busy and we weren't getting much time to study, so we decided that 15 minutes before going to bed, we would study Bhagavatam, read Bhagavatam, 15 minutes. And the key there is that we decided no more than 15 minutes maximum. So that sometimes we get carried away reading, and then we think, and we spend an hour, we spend an hour and a half, then the next day we don't get enough sleep, and then we're tired, and then we get frustrated, and then the whole week we don't study Bhagavatam because it messed up our life, So if you know what your limits are, maybe it's 30 minutes, maybe it's 15 minutes, maybe it's 10 minutes, but you stick to that limit, then everyone knows it's no burden, you see, because in family life, if anything becomes a burden, it doesn't happen, it doesn't stay. You'll do it for 1 week with enthusiasm, and then eventually it messes up your schedule enough where you're not going to do it anymore. So you have to find a way of incorporating Bhagavatam into your life where it's not a burden. And so if it means 15 minutes on the dot, right? I'm sorry, this is so exciting, but we have to stop now. 15 minutes is over. Then tomorrow you will know, I can study Bhagavatam because, who can spare 15 minutes, right? Even if it's midnight and you're going to bed, 15 minutes past midnight, okay, fine. You know you're going to end, right? You know it won't be 30 minutes past or 45 minutes past. So find a technique, right? Find a way to blend it into your life, to make it part of your day-to-day. And everyone's strategy can be different. You have to find your own strategy that'll work. Find your own system of study. Create your own study guide. Do what works for you. Hear what others are doing, and then apply what works for you. And in your situation, however you do it, yena kena prakarena, one way or the other, by hook or by crook, Prabhupada says. Right? If we just blend it in somehow, a little bit, then Bhagavatam is such that it will transform our lives. Not just spiritually, but also materially. It will make everything auspicious. Materially we will do better, academically we will do better, the kids will do better, our job will go better, and our Krishna consciousness will go better. Right? It's a full package. Bhagavatam is not going to destroy our material life and just make us into devotees. It's like the sun, right? Puranarko dunodita. It's like the sun. The sun makes everything auspicious. Every aspect of the world becomes beautiful and sunny. It becomes full of energy when the sun rises. Not just one thing or another thing. So Bhagavatam will make everything auspicious in our lives. That's the real tirtha. Tirthi kurvanti tirthani. This is the real tirtha. It's a place of pilgrimage. Bhagavatam. It's there right in our homes. We don't have to go to Tirth Yatra and this Yatra. That we can do, but that's optional. Bhagavatam is right there. It's the source of all Tirthas in our house. So I will stop at that point and see if anyone has questions or comments, doubts, anything to add. Yes, please.
We've been told to read the Bhagavad Gita first and then go to Bhagavatam. So is it okay to recommend anyone forget about Bhagavad Gita and go to Bhagavatam first? Or?
Yeah, so we've been told to read Bhagavad Gita first and then Bhagavatam. So in general, yes, but if we are devotees, practicing devotees, we can begin right away with Bhagavatam, no problem, right? In fact, Prabhupada says specifically for cantos 1 and 2, he approved them for mass distribution. And therefore you see the BBT even publishes first canto part 1 in mass distribution format. Right? Because Prabhupada specifically said for the first 2 cantos, they're open to anyone. Beyond the first 2 cantos, he said we should not go if we're still struggling with gross material desires, like meat eating and illicit sex and gambling and intoxication. The subtle desires are still there all the way to 9th, 10th canto, right? All those desires will be there. It's a long process of cleansing the heart. But first 2 cantos are open to everyone. But as devotees, we should not be afraid of coming to Bhagavatam.
Non-devotees?
Yeah, we can encourage them to study Bhagavatam, no problem. Give them the first canto and ask them to read, no problem. Yes?
You mentioned about the 5 from Gita Goswami's letter devotion that
Yes.
So, if someone says, I'm doing deity worship, why do I need to read the Bhagavatam?
Yeah, good question. So if someone says, the 5 things are there, deity, devotee, nam, dham, Bhagavatam. Question is, if someone says, I'm worshipping the deity, I'm doing something else, why do I need to read Bhagavatam? I'm doing one of the 5, right? So why do I need to study Bhagavatam? And the answer is they don't need to. By deity worship, or by association devotees, by holy names, you can get perfection, right? Just by chanting the holy names, you can get perfection. You don't need anything else, practically speaking. But the fact is, on a practical level, we need something else. Because we need a nice balance of all 5. The reason for that is because where we are in spiritual life, we need to feed our intelligence. See, if we go on chanting, but we do not understand why we're chanting, and we don't understand what mood we should chant in, and what the goal of that chanting is, and we don't make our intelligence strong so that we can stay focused on the chanting, then our chanting will not last, because it will be full of offenses, and that chanting will not be steady, it will not last, and it will not give us the desired result even after many, many lifetimes of chanting. Right? So in order to chant nicely, we read Bhagavatam. In order to do deity worship with some meaningfulness. Right? Yesterday we were describing Bhagavatam is Krishna's body. In deity worship, what are you doing? You're serving Krishna's body, right? It's Archanam, it's Padasevanam, you're serving his body. But how do you know what Krishna will like and how he wants to be served? Unless we read Srimad Bhagavatam and we see how the great devotees served him, you see? So Bhagavatam is supporting all of these other processes. Technically, you can use any one of the processes, and there's examples of how people have used it on their own and gotten perfection. But because we don't have the capacity to be exclusively focused on one, to the extent that would be required, like we cannot chant 24/7, right? Prabhupada gave us a process that beautifully balances all 5. And if you look at the process that Prabhupada prescribed for us, with the morning program, the chanting of our 16 rounds, attending of kirtan every day, study of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam in the morning, Bhagavad Gita in the evening. If you look at the temple schedule that Prabhupada gave us, then you find that all 5 processes are beautifully intertwined with each other and balanced completely. Just in the morning program, you get worship of the deities, right? 4:30 in the morning. You're chanting in front of them. The holy name is there. You chant your rounds together with the devotees. You're associating with the devotees in kirtan, in class, during japa. And you're studying Srimad Bhagavatam with the Bhagavatam class at the end, right? And you're doing all of this in the temple, which is the dham. All 5 things are there just in the morning program itself. Prabhupada has given us. Now, we may not be living in a temple and we may not be able to do the whole thing in that way because we need to run to work and so on. But the point is, all the elements of the morning program have to be there in our life. And when we have that balance, then we know that the process is going to work for us because the doctor has prescribed that, right? It's just like if you take this medicine, you can be cured. But the doctor says, take the medicine and I want you to change your diet and I want you to get some extra sleep. And with that medicine, take this one also because you may not be able to handle the full effects of that medicine. So take this also for balance. So technically the medicine should cure you, right? But the doctor is giving 6 other things for you to do because he knows that this balance is what we need in order to allow the medicine to work. You're taking the antibiotics for your cough, but you're eating ice cream as your main diet. You're working against it, right? You're working against the medicine. The medicine may not be effective as quickly as we want it to.
So Kali Yuga, it shouldn't be an or, it should be an and.
Yes, exactly. It means in Kali Yuga, it's not an or, it's an and. We have to try to practice all 5 of them. We will naturally find that one or more of the processes we can spend more time doing because it suits our nature, because that is what it suits our current situation, right? But all 5 should be incorporated into our lives. Yes, Prabhu.
You mentioned in choosing a path, you should first know what your goal is, and second is what is the success rate.
Yes.
How do we know what the success